This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Myles Garrett and TJ Watt is as close as pass rushers can get to Magic and Bird. It is a comp that is always going to feel supernatural for a number of reasons, right? Myles Garrett plays for the Cleveland Browns. TJ Watt plays on the Pittsburgh Steelers. These guys are going to be what you hope career-long rivals because they're never leaving their respective teams, or at least you would hope they never leave their respective teams. Another reason why TJ Watt and Myles Garrett were almost destined to be compared is that they come from two completely different backgrounds. Myles Garrett was the jewel of all jewels coming out of college. We knew he was going #1 overall. There was no question about it. It was a thing that we knew for the next 2 years once we saw Myles Garrett arrive at Texas A&M. You knew what he was. He was a 5-star recruit. There was never a diamond in the rough period for Myles Garrett, or a shadow for Myles Garrett to really emerge from. He was what everybody thought he was and showed that throughout his NFL and college career. TJ Watt, on the other hand, while he's been helped by being the brother of JJ Watt, has also had to emerge from the shadow of JJ Watt. He's somebody who was not the #1 overall pick. He was a late first-round pick in the 2017 NFL draft, which is the identical draft that Myles Garrett went #1. If you look at play styles, Myles Garrett can do anything. He can bend, he can bull, he can power, he can do all of these things so effortlessly. When you look at TJ Watt is somebody who has become a great NFL player off of his ability to bull rush and his ability to run down the middle of your chest. It's very blue collar in that way, right? And that is the natural comp for TJ and Myles. They get the job done at a high level, both of them, but they get it done in two completely different ways, in two completely different systems, while being kind of mirrors of each other, while being great foils to each other, and also naturally rivals to each other. It's a great situation that the NFL has landed itself in. I mean, like, I don't know if you could ask for a better situation, but with that situation, these two get compared all the time. And one of the things I've always said, considering this debate, is amongst NFL front offices, I don't think that this is much of a debate, especially after last season, because I think every front office would take Myles Garrett first. Now, might have been a little bit of hyperbole. Now, Jeremy Schaap wrote an article for ESPN, and in that article, he asked front offices, well, what edge rushers do you prefer? And the answer might surprise some of you. With the NFL, he starts the article with the NFL's training camp on the horizon. ESPN surveyed league executives, coaches, scouts to help us rank the top 10 players at 11 different positions, from quarterback to cornerback, and all positions in between. This is the 5th edition of these rankings as usual. This is the ranking process, so a reminder of the ranking process. Voters give us their best 10 players at the position. Then we compile the results, rank the candidates based on the number of top 10 votes, composite average, and dozens of interviews with research, film study, to help from ESPN NFL analyst Matt Bowen. In total, more than 80 voters submitted a ballot on at least one position, and in many cases, all positions. And additional voting and follow-up calls with those surveyed help us break any ties. So that is the process in which they made this ranking list, which makes me feel like this is something worthwhile, worth talking about. It's not just somebody writing a ranking list. This is a actual ranking of what people in the league think. And #1 was Myles Garrett. Highest ranking, number 1. Lowest ranking, number 3. That's crazy, by the way, that Myles Garrett's lowest ranking on this list was number 3. Like, just think about the insane era of edge rushers he's in. And number 3 is the lowest he's been since he's been ranked on these lists. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. And look, this is no shade to TJ Watt. This is no shade to anybody, any other edge rusher. We're talking about an era here where there's multiple Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famers actively playing right now. But number 1 is Myles Garrett. Garrett is now in a tier 1 by himself. That is significant. So they're saying number 2 is not even close to him, not even on the same tier. Garrett is now on a tier 1 by himself, earning 70% of first place votes. Woo! If you don't double him, he's going to effing kill you, an NFL coordinator said. In fact, Garrett is excelling in single or double teams more than 30% of the time, trailing only Micah Parsons in pass rush win rate. Garrett's status as Defensive Player of the Year earned him credibility amongst voters, but many of them don't consider 2023 any sort of a breakthrough. It's an important sentence. I'm going to read it again. Garrett's status as the reigning Defensive Player of the Year earned him credibility amongst voters, but most of them don't consider 2023 any sort of breakthrough. It's just a normal year for Myles Garrett, and they think this highly of him. He has had 46 sacks over the past 3 seasons. He might have hit 20 sacks in 2022 had it not been for the car accident that left him injured in September. I don't think he's changed at all. I think he's got more help around him, which accentuated his play, an AFC executive said. He's always been the same dominant guy. The only knock on Garrett was that he was quiet in the playoff game against Houston with Laramie Tunsil holding him to 3 tackles and 0 sacks. However, it's important to note that the entire Browns defense played poorly that day, giving up 45 points. Now, they didn't give up 45 points. 14 of those points were on pick sixes, but you can't get it all right? Like that's definitely like just objectively not true. Garrett led all pass rushers in interceptions created by his pass rush. 6. Didn't even know that was a stat, but damn. Now, number 2 is TJ Watt. And I think deservedly so. TJ Watt had a good year last year. I do think some of the advanced numbers, when you look at TJ Watt, might suggest that he is starting to hit a downturn in his career where he's not going to be as effective as he was like in 2020. His win rate numbers really aren't even close to what they were at his peak or what looks to be his peak that year where he almost got the sack record. But that's what we're comparing it to. We're comparing it to a year where he almost got the sack record. So we'll see what TJ does going forward. But number 2, I think, is deserved for TJ. That is what NFL front offices think. They think Myles Garrett is number 1 with a bullet in a tier by himself. And 2023 ain't even the season that did it for him. They don't even think the year he won Defensive Player of the Year was a standout year for Myles Garrett or was some kind of breakthrough year for Myles Garrett. And again, 70% of the vote. Let's go back to that quote. He got 70% of the first place votes. Damn. That's crazy. When Micah Parsons is in the NFL at the same time as you and playing very good football, when TJ Watt and Max Crosby and countless other great edge rushers are playing at the same time as you, these guys who have a good chance, if not a great chance or a shoe-in to be first ballot Hall of Famers if their career continues on their trajectory, and you get 70% of that vote. It just goes to what I've said. Look, every time people in Cleveland or people talk about Myles Garrett, I always remind them, and they get mad at this reminder, and they don't think I'm telling the truth about this, but it's true. It's just what we know. Your favorite GM would move everything to replace your favorite pass rusher with Myles Garrett, even if it's TJ Watt. They would do everything to get Myles Garrett. That is how special Myles Garrett is. And for some people, it's hard to see because all the sack numbers aren't there. But people who evaluate the game, people who actually have to prepare to play the game, they know what's important, and they know that Myles Garrett is the single most important factor on the Cleveland Browns. Look at that quote from a coordinator, right? A coordinator said this, and I told you, NFL coordinators would definitely prefer having Myles Garrett over literally anybody else. If you don't double him, he's going to effing kill you. This is what people in the NFL think. I know that we get into these arguments about sack rate and all this on Twitter, but at the end of the day, the people who have to prepare against TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, coordinators, general managers, scouts, the people who get paid based on their ability to slow down Myles Garrett and edge rushers like him, always say 70% of the time, all the time, shout out to Anchorman, that Myles Garrett is in a tier by himself. And when you watch teams prepare against Myles Garrett, and you watch teams prepare against who's number 2 on this list, TJ Watt, or even Micah Parsons, you can tell that that's the case because teams do things against Myles you'll never see them do all season unless they're playing Myles Garrett. There's a offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach right now in Dallas thinking about ways that they can install protections for 1 week against Myles Garrett. They ain't never going to use them protections again. They're going to use those protections week 1, throw them out, never use them again. I think they played the whole AFC North. They're going to use them one time. We've talked about this. Teams cover Myles Garrett differently. Yeah, his stack numbers aren't crazy. That's because teams are Darrelle Revising him. They are purposely doing everything that they can to avoid him. Myles Garrett has more impact than 99% of Myles Garrett has more impact than 90% of edge rushers in the NFL, if not more, just by simply existing. He ain't got to do a single damn thing. The amount of rotation that goes over to Myles Garrett, the amount of attention that gets paid to Myles Garrett, simply because he's wearing that 95 jersey, a padded helmet, and he's standing on that football field. He could be in crutches, but if he's on that field, he's going to be more impactful than 90% of your edge rushers because that's how afraid teams are of him. If he's on the field, they're going to double. They might triple. They're going to roll everything towards him. That is the impact of Myles. He don't even got to do a single thing to be impactful because the fear of Myles Garrett is impactful at a Pro Bowl level. And then you add that he's Myles Garrett. And that even if you do double him, which he gets doubled a ton, he has a higher than normal chance to destroy that double team because he's Myles. He got double teamed the most in the NFL, still had the second highest pass rush rate. Do you know how insane that is? Myles Garrett is insane. And I know that we're not at the point anymore where people aren't appreciating that. I think the Defensive Player of the Year award that he won last year really shut up a lot of his skeptics, especially in Cleveland. But when it comes to Myles Garrett, I'll just say people in Cleveland appreciate what you're watching because this is not usual. We will spend this era appreciating Myles Garrett, but we will spend every moment after the end of Myles Garrett's career complaining that every edge rusher is not Myles Garrett, presumably for the rest of our life. Because what we're seeing right now from Myles, the kind of player he is, the kind of athlete he is, the kind of problems he poses to a defense, that's a once-in-a-generation type player. Be grateful it's on your team. But to the Myles and TJ debate, there it is. There it is. When they surveyed people in the NFL who prepare against these guys, they like TJ Watt. They put him at number 2. But Myles Garrett was in a chair by himself, getting 70% of the first place votes. If that doesn't settle the Myles TJ debate, nothing will. But there it is. For anybody who's ever wondered, what do the people in the NFL think about that? That's what they think. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.